The Copeland African American Museum is located in Thaxton Hall on North Campus of VSU. Upon entering Thaxton, you will need to climb a small flight of stairs to the second floor where the museum is located. As soon as you walk into the door of the museum lobby, you will be greeted by the front desk staff who will ask you to sign the guest book before beginning the tour. The guide will bring you to the first wall with a framed photo of the founders, Roy and Cheryl Copeland. The couple started their treasure trove with a Christmas gift of Muhammad Ali boxing gloves from Cheryl to Roy. On the other side of the hall, you will see a giant portrait of the pilots of the Tuskegee Airmen from 1944. Going into the museum, your attention is immediately drawn to the two giant cases in the middle of the floor and all the artifacts that hang on the walls. Starting with the 1944 Tuskegee Airmen from left to right, you'll see Lieutenant Dempsey W. Morgan, Lieutenant Carroll S. Woods, Lieutenant Robert H. Nelson Jr., Captain Andrew D. Turner, and Lieutenant Clarence D. Lester. A description to the left of the portrait mentions that Lieutenant Carroll S. Woods was a native to Valdosta and was drafted into the Army in 1941 and was selected for flight training at Tuskegee Army Air Base in 1941. This helped him to become one of the legendary Tuskegee Airmen, the first African American military aviators. Going into the museum, there stands a signed football in the middle of the room. This football is signed by Douglas Lee Williams, a former American football quarterback for Grambling State University. He was the first African American quarterback to win a Super Bowl and is still the only one to win Super Bowl MVP. Next to the football stands a tall glass case with a white guitar signed by Bo Diddley. The description beneath the guitar mentions that Bo Diddley was the first African American to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. Starting on the wall to the right as you walk in, you will see the document that was signed by the Secretary of State to certify that slavery had to be abolished. The amendment officially abolished slavery in the United States 246 years after the first slaves arrived on the shores of Virginia in 1619. Directly to the right of the amendment, there is a framed letter from Booker T. Washington to Miss Mary Shannon. The enclosed letter warns Miss Shannon of the yellow fever in the South and that it is preventing Washington from seeing her face to face to discuss business. Also in the frame includes a photograph of Washington and a brief description of him. Next to Washington, we have Mrs. Coretta Scott King, wife of Martin Luther King. This frame includes a photograph of King, a brief description of her, and a first day cover envelope she signed that honors the late President John F. Kennedy. Ebenezer Baptist Church welcomed Martin Luther King Jr. for sermons, which is where the service pamphlet came from in the next frame. King held a Sunday service and signed a pamphlet for a fan. This service was held in Atlanta, Georgia. The photo in the same frame features King with members of Congress right before his 1963 March on Washington. Up next, we have a colorful painting of Muhammad Ali painted by Leroy Neiman. This colorful painting was made to advertise the Muhammad Ali Center opening in Louisville, Kentucky in November 2005. Underneath this painting, we have the artifacts that started it all, the signed red boxing gloves that belonged to Muhammad Ali himself. Right next to the gloves hanging on the wall in a black frame are his signed black and white boxing shorts. There is no description to follow, but the staff is happy to give some information about them. A fun fact about these is if you looked at the waistband, you could see a little bit of blood from either his opponent or himself. For the next few artifacts, they are featured in a 3-shelved cabinet. The first framed treasure is a check made out from Althea Gibson for a parking violation for $25 paid to the Parking Violation Bureau. In the same frame, there is a photo of her, also a brief description. Althea Gibson was the first African American to be named Female Athlete of the Year by the Associated Press in 1957. Next to Miss Gibson, we have a book that was signed by Jackie Robinson saying best wishes. It also features a baseball card and a brief description saying that Jackie Robinson was the first African American to play Major League Baseball. Underneath Jackie Robinson, we have an agenda of the Supreme Court signed by Thurgood Marshall. Directly beside Justice Marshall, we have Thomas J. Tom Bradley's cufflinks. Bradley served an unprecedented 5 terms as mayor of Los Angeles, California. He was also the first and only black mayor of Los Angeles. In the frame, it features his cufflinks as well as a brief description of Mr. Bradley. At the frame for cufflinks, we have a signed book from Mr. Martin Luther King. It reads, "To Lois, best wishes, Martin Luther King." Underneath King's signature, we have Legacy by Tupac Shakur that was written by Jamal Joseph. This box set includes a 60-minute interview CD, as well as the book. In the enclosure, we see the opening pages of a short script written by Mr. Tupac himself. It is entitled Wonder, If Heaven Got a Ghetto. Underneath Tupac's writings, we have tools used by Sarah Breedlove, also known as Madam C.J. Walker. Miss Walker was known as the first African American entrepreneur, philanthropist, and the first female self-made millionaire in America. She made her fortune by developing and marketing a line of beauty and hair products for black women under the company she founded, Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company. Many believe that she invented the straightening comb. However, Madam Walker simply whitened the teeth in order that black women could straighten their hair. Right next to the hair care products, we have 4 boxes of Wheaties, 3 of which have Muhammad Ali on the front, and 1 of which have the Lakers. One box is signed by one of the players of the Lakers in 1988, and the small box is signed by Muhammad Ali himself. Coming back to the wall, we have a letter from Mr. Ralph J. Bunch, Undersecretary General. Mr. Bunch was a highly respected diplomat and the first African American to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 1950. He wrote a letter to Mr. Little, writing, "I acknowledge receipt of your letter of 26 August in which you asked for my permission to print the following quotation attributed to me. If you want to get across an idea, wrap it up in person. I do not recall having made any such statement. Could you tell me where it appeared? Yours sincerely, Ralph J. Bunch. This was written under the United Nations. To that letter, we have where all the action takes place, with Mr. Sugar Ray Robinson. This frame features 2 tickets, one of which is signed, which says Best Wishes, Sugar Ray Robinson. It also has the front page of a magazine called The Ring, which was 25 cents in December of 1948. We also have a portrait of Mr. Ray Robinson, and there is another ticket for the Yankee Stadium, which was between Mr. Robinson and Gallivan. Underneath that ticket, we also have a newspaper clipping from the fight for a shot of the title between Gallivan and Mr. Robinson himself. Going back to the Tuskegee Airmen, we have another frame which features the popular assigned group from World War II. Pictured in this is the group of men who fought in the World War II that were African American that were drafted. To the right of this photo, we see pictured in small inset signed photos are Grant Williams, Richard Rutledge, and Mal Whitfield. Directly to the right of these brave airmen, we have a photo of the original Little Rock Nine. This photo was taken on their first day of school, where they were accompanied by soldiers and police in case there was any violence. This photo was also signed by the original Little Rock Nine. Next to Little Rock Nine, we have a letter signed by Mr. Hank Aaron to his general managers and managers. From Hank Aaron, he wrote, beginning August 14th, I will be out of the country on a trip for President Carter, returning to my office on Monday, August 21st. Paul Snyder will leave on August 14th for Bradenton, Florida. He can be contacted at Pedro Gonzalez Hotel Room 813-747-2227 or Pirate City Braves Housing 813-747-3031. Please contact Paul should you have any problems during this time. This letter was written by Hank Aaron on August 8, 1978. In the same frame, it has the same envelope that it came in, as well as a photograph and description of Mr. Hank Aaron. To the right, we have another check made out by Mr. Alex Haley, an African-American director who paid $8,000 for the county bank. Alex Haley was born in February 1992 and served 20 years in the U.S. Coast Guard, where he received many awards and decorations. Once he left, he launched his writing career and he became a senior editor for Reader's Digest. He also included interviews with Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Muhammad Ali, and famed attorney Melvin Billy. Haley's most notable works are Roots, The Saga of an American Family, a work partly based on his family's history beginning in the Gambia, and Malcolm X, written in collaboration with Malcolm X. In 1977, Haley was awarded a Pulitzer Prize for his publication of Roots. Next, we have a magazine cover that features Andrew Jackson Young Jr., a prominent black petition and civil rights leader who helped during the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. While pastoring black churches in the South, Young had met several civil rights leaders, including Martin Luther King Jr., the 2 men who found the Christian Leadership Conference. Following King's assassination in 1968, Young worked in the organization with Ralph Abernathy until 1970, when he left to run unsuccessfully for Congress. This magazine features his signature to Mr. George Tones. It reads, Peace, Blessings, from Mr. Andrew Young, Jr. Up next, we have the official Rolling Stone cover for Mr. Barack Obama when he was first inducted into his presidency. It's titled Barack Obama, A New Hope, which is also signed by former President Barack Obama. The rest of the inaugurational memorabilia was donated by Mr. and Mrs. Copeland themselves after they themselves went to the official inauguration of Barack Obama, the 44th President of the United States, in 2009. There they received 2 stickers, 2 face cards, as well as the pamphlet and the booklet that it came with. The next photos and descriptions represent the African American inventors who changed the world as we know it. These include Mr. Mark E. Dean, George Carruthers, Madam C.J. Walker, Dr. Patricia Bath, Marie Van Brittan Brown, George Washington Carver, Alexander Miles, Dr. Charles Drew, Jan Ernst Matzliger, and Thomas J. L. Jennings. This collection of 75 pieces that span over 150 years are located in Thaxton Hall, which is a no admission cost and is open from Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The artifact displays change twice a year, and the museum encourages guests to return often.